Hey everyone, I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. Look, if you've been following the incredibly dark, twisting lore of Berampur, you know things have been completely escalating. Well, today is the day we completely deconstruct the climax of Taboot 4. We're going to break down the intense lore, the heart-pounding action, and of course, those tragic sacrifices that bring this whole story to its stunning conclusion. So let's jump right in, navigate the chaos, and really figure out the mechanics of this supernatural showdown.
So, think about this for a second. What exactly do you do when a 400-year-old curse just wakes up? And the absolute only way to stop it is locked inside a mysterious coffin or taboot. It's a terrifying premise, right? But that's exactly the ticking clock scenario that anchors our entire explainer today. The stakes in Berampur have literally never been higher. Our main characters are trapped in this deadly puzzle where history, mythology, and pure survival are all crashing together at once. Section 1. The 400-year-old mystery.
Okay, so Baba's explanation completely redefines the monsters of our story. The real threat here comes from the Nishir Molo, but you have to understand, these aren't just your standard mindless demons. These are souls who suffered incredibly unnatural deaths. And the real tragedy here, they actually have no idea that they're dead. It's like they're trapped in this endless loop, still desperately trying to carry out their earthly duties. But because they're doing that, they're actively marking the living to join them in death. It takes a classic ghost story and just adds this layer of profound, terrifying tragedy to the whole thing.
Section 2. Berampur Puran and the Ritual.
Now, we need to talk about Baba's strategy, because this is absolutely crucial. It's a three-pronged approach, and honestly, there is zero margin for error here. First up, they have to track down this ancient text called the Berampur Puran, which was hidden away in a secret room of the palace 4 centuries ago. Second, someone has to perform a highly specialized ritual right there inside the fort. And third, and this is the hard part, to prevent an absolute massacre, every single villager has to stay strictly indoors so they don't provoke the Nishir Mola while the ritual is being prepped. I mean, talk about a fragile plan. They are relying entirely on ancient texts and absolute unquestioning compliance from a terrified village.
Section 3. Attack of the Nishir Molo. This is where the tension just goes completely off the charts, splitting our focus in two. Out at the edge of the village, it is total horror. The priest and the chief find 2 villagers, Sampat and Kamta, just lying senseless on the ground, their faces turned completely blue. And the priest reveals something chilling. Their bodies are technically alive, but their souls already gone, marked and taken by the Nishir Molo. And worse, there are 4 dark shadows emerging right out of the forest, heading straight for the village. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Meghna is just frantically flipping through the pages of this ancient book, racing against the clock to find a solution before those shadows wipe out the entire town. It is a brilliant, anxiety-inducing crosscut of simultaneous dread.
Let's break down exactly what happens when Meghna finally finds what she's looking for. You can literally feel the desperation in the air. Step 1, she locates the hidden mantra, but of course it requires a sacrifice. Step 2, even though she is terrified she might not survive it, she grabs a sharp piece of metal, cuts herself, and spills a single drop of her own blood right onto the ancient page. Step 3, she chants the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, begging the guardian spirits of the soil to take the curse back. And then, Step 4, boom! A massive explosion of blinding light just fills the entire palace. The ritual actually works, but it triggers something nobody saw coming. That blinding light forces the Nishir Molo to just suddenly freeze. And for the very first time, they lift their heads. Their eyes are burning like fire. And in this heavy, booming voice, they say, "Waiting 400 years. Finally found you, princess." Just let that sink in for a second. Meghna is completely bewildered. But in that split second, this terrifying realization washes over her. Actually, scratch that, it completely flips her entire reality. She isn't just some ordinary girl who got caught up in a bad situation. She is intrinsically tied to this 400-year-old lore. She is the princess they've been waiting for.
Section 4. The Taboot and the Sacrifice.
Now, while that massive revelation is happening inside, sheer panic is unfolding externally. The palace roof is literally collapsing. The villagers can feel the actual ground shaking beneath their feet. This thick, black fog rolls out of the forest and just swallows the crumbling palace whole. The village chief desperately wants to rush in there and save the girls, but the priest physically holds him back, and he delivers this incredibly bleak warning. He tells him there are no humans left in there, only shadows of the past remain. This detail is so vital, guys, because it establishes that Meghna, Ishita, and Anuj are now completely cut off. No rescue is coming, they are entirely on their own.
And this just builds into a crazy, rapid-fire chain of events. First, the Nishirmolo slowly slide the lid right off the taboo, the coffin. This mysterious light spills out into the room, and Meghna just intuitively knows that if she doesn't close it right now, those monsters will be free forever. She leaps to force the lid shut, but this invisible supernatural force just grabs her, pulling her right toward the coffin. Then Anuj steps up. He hurls a burning torch directly at the spirits, yelling that they won't let demons take their village. The fire actually scatters the shadows for just a second. Meghna uses that tiny split-second window. She tells Ashita to take the book, run outside, and burn it to end the curse. When Ashita refuses to leave her behind, Meghna physically shoves Ashita and Anuj out through a secret exit. And the moment they cross that threshold, the massive, heavy doors of the palace slam shut all on their own, sealing Meghna inside, alone, with the open to boot and the spirits.
Section 5. The Immortal Story and Ashes.
So let's take a breath and look at what Berampur is left with after all of this. Outside, that violent storm, it just stops. A dead, suffocating silence falls over the entire village. That grand, ancient palace burns completely to the ground, leaving absolutely nothing but a massive pile of ashes. But then, the priest reveals something fascinating to the grieving villagers. He says Meghna didn't actually die. Because of who she really was, she simply returned to the time from which she originally came. The curse was basically paid in full. And years later, we get this hauntingly poetic resolution. Those 4 terrifying shadows, the Nishirmolo, you can still feel them in the streets. But they don't hurt anyone anymore. They become these peaceful sentinels, just standing guard over the ashes of the princess who became an immortal story.
Which brings us to a question that really lingers long after the smoke clears. Years later, we see Ashita reading her old diary. She clearly remembers the last time Meghna smiled at her, right before those heavy doors sealed shut forever. But reflecting on all of it, the ancient curses, the supernatural blood rituals, time-traveling princesses, she writes down this one question. Was it all real, or just a dream? It so perfectly captures those blurred lines between reality and myth that make this whole story so incredibly captivating. What do you guys think? Was Meghna really a ghost from the past, or did the sheer trauma of that night just weave itself into a local legend? It is a phenomenal way to end the saga. Thank you so much for joining me today to unpack this incredible lore. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I will definitely catch you in the next explainer.